Applications in statistics generally start with data, so to get started, here's some sample data. This data happens to be a sequence of daily outdoor air temperature measurements in degrees Celsius, but similar principles apply to almost any data. Often the first step in working with data is to make a plot or otherwise get a quick summary of what's in the data. For example, the min function can be applied to this data to get the lowest temperature measurement in the list. The max function gives the highest temperature, and the length function gives the length of the list, which here is the number of measurements. These numbers give the important basic information that this data is a list of 64 temperature measurements ranging from 22.5 to 34.8 degrees Celsius. A basic plot for data like this is a line plot, created here using the list_line_plot function. And here's a similar plot called a scatter plot, which is given by the list_plot function. A line plot is basically a scatter plot with the points connected by lines. These plots in principle provide a visual representation of all of the information in the data. The horizontal axes show the number of each day in the data set, and the vertical axes show the temperature that was measured on each day. These plots show the minimum temperature and the maximum temperature and the number of measurements and lots of other information, but there are other ways to summarize data that are sometimes more useful for emphasizing particular aspects of the data. For example, here's a plot called a histogram, which gives a picture of the distribution of temperatures. The horizontal axis in a histogram is organized into intervals. Each interval in this example represents 2 degrees of temperature starting at 22 degrees. The number of temperature measurements in each interval is shown as the height of the bar in that interval. Comparing the histogram with the scatter plot, the height of the first bar shows that there are 4 temperature measurements between 22 and 24 degrees Celsius. The second bar shows that there are 7 temperature measurements between 24 and 26 degrees. The third bar shows that there are 19 temperature measurements between 26 and 28 degrees, and so on. A plot like a scatter plot, which includes the day of each temperature measurement, is needed to show a trend in temperature over time, but the histogram makes it easier to see the distribution of temperatures. Another way of summarizing the distribution of temperatures is with a simple plot called a number line plot, which shows the temperature measurements as points on a number line. This plot is more compact than a histogram and still shows basic features of the data. It's easy to see from the number line plot, for example, that the temperatures range from about 22 to about 35 degrees Celsius, and that the most common temperatures are clustered near the middle of the range. A related plot is a box-whisker chart, generated here using the box-whisker chart function. The box-whisker chart includes lines called whiskers that extend from the minimum temperature to the maximum temperature, and a box where the height of the box shows the range that includes the central half of the measurements. In this example, half of the temperatures fall within the box, 1/4 of the temperatures fall along the whisker above the box, and 1/4 of the temperatures fall along the whisker below the box. The line near the middle of the box is called the median. The median is the temperature for which half of the temperatures are above the median and half of the temperatures are below the median. Depending on what is needed, however, it is often reasonable to summarize the data with just a few numbers, such as the minimum, the maximum, and the median. The next few sections explore in more detail these and other ways of summarizing data.